Hello everyone, welcome to another live session. Hope you're all doing well. In this live session, we will discuss loops, also Python data types like lists and tuples. Definitely tomorrow we will have another live session, same time, since we wanna finish with Python with introduction to Python, and then there will be another class that will discuss like advanced Python. So let's get started. If you're ready, please confirm if you can see my screen. Is it visible for you? Okay, awesome. So let's start with loops. What are loops? For example, like programmers like us, we commonly have to write like codes that perform the same task like over and over, right? So consider an example that we have like been asked to write a program that like calculates a sale percent, uh, like uh, like person sales like of like several sales people. So uh, it is good to like write the codes over and over, but it is not recommended. In order to like avoid uh, these kind of like problems, so like for example, our time is really important. Also, we don't want to like duplicate uh, our code. Uh, in programming, it is really important to consider your time. So Python or programming or programs, they offer like a solution for that, which we call like loops. و هم در فارسی برش میگیم حلقه. این لوپ ها میتونیم برشان بگوییم که ما دو نوع لوپ داریم و یا هم حلقت داریم که یکیش وایل لوپ هست و یکیش هم فال لوپ هست. وایل لوپ چی هست که در این حلقه ما میتونیم بگوییم که یک از مجموعه از دستورها می باشه که با تعداد معلوم و مورد نیاز تا زمانی که شرط مشخص شده صحیح باشه تکرار میشه. So here's an instruction a shape that's for example, or a diagram that explain how it works. For example, whenever this condition, for example, the product is smaller and equal to 100, whenever this condition is true, the while loop will perform this task. It duplicates or it's it for example multiplies to or multiplies to product. And if it's false, it will end our program, right? So this is how it works. Let's consider an example in while loop. Here's the notebook that we worked last live session. For example, I have a variable. I can store a string. For example, keep going into a variable, and I store y in here, which means like, which stands for yes. Now I can write the while loop and then specify the condition. What is the condition? I say while keep going is equal to y or yes, then then what should you do? You should get the cells from the user, for example. The type of this should be float. We learned about this function in the previous live session, and then we use like the input. And inside input, we can write uh, like either we can write a text or um, we are good if we don't want to like write the text. But if it is important for the user to understand what type of, for example, input you want from the cells. So I, in this case, I just want from users to enter the cells and then I store it into a variable. Like as we defined the variable in the previous live session, that a variable are tools that we can like store. We can store like or we can allocate computer's memory to it and store something in them. So uh, another input that I want to have is a commission, for example, rate. Okay. Oops. In this case, its data type should be float. Float, as we discussed in the previous live session, it is like Ashuri uh, in our uh, in Farsi. So we want to have the data type of it in Ashuri. Other than that, if it's string, we cannot perform any, for example, aromatic or mathematical, for example, operation.
ببخشن سفارة
Okay,
میشه
it's
کمی
the
زوم کنین؟
second input that I want to have from the user, and then I wanna calculate. Uh, as we discussed about the comments, it's just an extra explanation. یک توضیحات اضافی هست وقتی که ما میخوایم با در پروگرام خود اد بکنیم. اینا رن نمیشه و هم انترپریتری اسکیپ میکنه و هم در نظر نمیگیره، ولی برای ازی که برای ازی خوب است که ما کسی که پروگرام ما رو ریویو میکنه و یا هم میبینه و تا خود ما بعضی مواقع فراموش میکنیم بعضی کدها را. مهم است که نوشته بکنیم و یک نوت باشه در داخل خود پروگرام ما، سو زمانی که ما پروگرام ما رو میبینیم و یا هم یک فرد دیگه بفهمه که چی در پروگرام رخ داده. So I can write like calculate a yes. So I can define a new variable in here to store the
ببخشن
result,
ممکن است سفارة
right?
کمی زوم بکنین؟
And then perform a task in here. For example, after getting the sales and commission rate, I can multiply these two variables, store it a new variables into new variables, which is commission. So at the end, what I'm gonna do is to like print the result. We discussed the print function as well, that if you want to like execute something, so we use print function. The commission is $, if you want to like print the, for example, a variable into, or if you want to like print a variable, you can use a comma in order to like differentiate between like a text and a variable. Also, we don't use any, we cannot use the variable inside the text. For example, let's consider I just call the variable inside the text. What will happen? Okay, let's just run it. Okay, just I think we have to add one more thing in here. Okay, just one thing more. We have to just get this value again, since we want to ask the user about uh, uh, about their vision. I mean, whether they want to like continue with the for loop or with the while loop or not. So I can write a new variable in here and then ask a user whether they want to continue the program or not. They remember that the variable's name should be same with the condition and the variable which is outside the uh, the program. So, and for this, for example, we can say, do you want to, um, for example, do another one? Um, and we can say press enter, enter y, or yes, yes, run it again. Mhm. Let's enter the sales. For example, sales is $100, and the rate is 4.5. Okay. Like as you can see, the program cannot like recognize the variable when we call it inside the text. So what we can do, we can just add a comma in here, and then write the variable's name. Is commission. If I run it again, let's see whether it will be able to recognize the variable or not. For example, 100, and the conversion rate is 4.5. As you can see, in this time, it could recognize the variable since we didn't use it inside the parentheses, right? There is another way that we can call the variable inside even the text. What we can do is we can write an if at the beginning of this, like this parenthesis, and then we can use the curly brackets. دو دانه قوساک هستک، قوسای متوسط اگر اشتباه نکنیم، یا قوسای بزرگ. و در داخل از این ما میتونیم که نام وریبل خود را نوشته کنیم. در اینجا خود کامپیوتر میتونه که بفهمه که اینجا یک وریبل است. در غیر آن، اگر ما همتون نوشته بکنیم داخل خود تکست، نمیتونه بفهمه که آیا این وریبل است و یا هم یک تکست است. اگر یک بار دیگه این را رن بکنم، ببینین که کار میکنه یا نه. مثلا میگه که سلس و یا هم فروشات پرمابتی و بعدا ریتشه. ببینین پروگرام ما قابلیت زیر داره که در صورت که ما curly brackets استفاده کنیم و یک if که stands for format. I guess اگر کار ما بکنیم میتونه که پروگرام ما وریبل وقتی که ما کال میکنیم بتونه او را ریکگنایز کنه و یا هم بشناسه. So the main topic is while loop. So as you can see in here, uh, the program asks me that do you want to do another one? Enter yes, Y for yes. Uh, in here, if I write Y, it gives me, it asks me for cells again. For example, 105.5, and it calculates the result, right? I can do it as many times as I want. So one of the benefits of like while loop is while the condition is true, while y is equal to y or yes is equal to yes, then come and perform the task, right? So if I say no, it stops the program. It stops the program, and the condition is not true. Like n is not equal to no is not equal to yes. So in this case, it stops uh, the the program. Let me just open append explain something for you. Okay. اینجا حلقه هست درست که ما برش میگیم مثلا while. در این while loop تا زمانی که این کاندیشن true می باشه چین در اینجا نشته میکنم که stands for true هست. تا زمانی که هی کاندیشن ما و یا همین شرط ما هی دستور ما true می باشه و یا هم درست می باشه while loop می آید و کار خود انجام میده. و ما یک تایپ دیگه هم داریم از خود لوپ ها که به نام فار لوپ یاد میشه. و فار لوپ چی هست؟ فار لوپ هم میتونیم بگوییم که فار لوپ یک نوع حلقه هست که میتونیم تعریف بکنیم ازش که مجموعی از دستورالعمل ها می باشه که به تعداد معلوم و مورد نیاز تکرار خواهد شد. while loop که هست چی هست؟ تا زمانی که کاندیشن ترو می باشد تعداد بر از این مهم اونقدر نیست که یعنی تعداد مهم باشه. ولی در فار لوپ چی هست؟ در فار لوپ تعداد قابل اهمیت است. و تعداد میتونیم در اول مشخص کنیم. در اول مشخص میکنیم که بر ما مثلا تا 5 برو. یک right مثلا 1 2 3 4 5. وقتی 5 شد حلقه را استارت کن. تعداد اینجا مشخص است برای فار لوپ، ولی در وایل لوپ تنها مهمی است که اون کاندیشن ما ترو باشه. یعنی این پروگرام هر اگر 100 بارم بزنم که yes I want to continue I want to have one another one, it will generate the code or give me it will run the program. اگر می وایل لوپ نباشه من مجبور هستم که اینپوت صدها بار بگیرم. این کد ما را صدها بار نشته کنم. درست؟ کد ما را مثلا صدها بار نشته کنم. Okay, just let me I can comment in here that first person and write another one second person. just copy and paste all these things in here. And third person, even fourth. نگاه کنین وقتی که while لوپ نباشه و یا حلقه نباشه ما مجبور هستیم که خیلی کد نوشته کنیم و این ریکومند نمیشه برای پروگرامرز که وقت خودم رو ضایع بکنم. اگه من این رو رن بکنم این میایه و برای ما میپرسه که if I enter the amount of, for example, sales and I can give it whatever I want and then it calculates the result and then again it asks me for a second person, for example in here. Okay. And 7. میبینین که یعنی در کل وقتی که وایل لوپ نباشه ما هم کد زیاد نوشته میکنیم و هم ما برای ما مشکل میباشه تا که کنترل بکنیم همین پروگرام ما. بنابراین یکی از فایده های لوپ و یا حلقه‌ای است که ما را از ای که کد زیاد نوشته بکنیم نجات میده و ما میتونیم که کد خود را چی بکنیم، کد خود را بتونیم کنترل بکنیم. Okay, let's move on to another one. Okay. Let's go to okay. As we mentioned that for loop, we use for loop for like for loop. We can say that it is a like count controlled loop. و یا هم در فارسی برش گفتیم که مجموعه از دستورالعمل هاست که به تعداد معلوم و مورد نیاز تکرار خواهد شد. در انگلیسی ما برش میگیم که این for loop که هست account controlled loop است. What do we mean by a account controlled loop? We can say that like a specific number of like times the program will run this, for example, loop. For example, so how can we define the range for loop? We use a function that's called range that we can specify the values. If we only write, for example, range 5, it will start from 0 and goes up to 4. Since we haven't like specified the first parameter or the first parameter or the first element of range, so by default it is 0. And remember one thing, that the second value will be one number like smaller than the actual. So let's have this is how it looks like. For example, we use for counter and range, for example, 10. When we say a range 10, it will start from 0. By default, the startup, for example, value, we haven't like specified the startup, for example, value. So by default, it will be 0. And remember that, as you can see, the range is 10, so it will print until 9. Since the second parameter should, the program will count the second, for example, value or parameter one number smaller, right? So we don't have like the range in for the for loop, right? Remember that we don't have range in for loop, in while loop, but we do have the range for the for loop. There is a difference. For the while loop, we have like condition that we have to specify condition, and while that condition is true, the program will run our or execute our program, right? So let's consider an example. Mhm. Uh, Probably um, an easy one. For example, for x in range of 5 and lower. So we haven't like specified the first parameter. Let's see what will be the like result. As you can see, it will start from hello world, hello world, hello world, and hello world. Like the it will be like 5. It is true, the range is 5, but the start point will be from 0. If I print, for example, x, let's use the string in here and the write x. We want to see, or we want to have the value of x in this loop. So we just do it like this. As you can see, it will start, the loop starts from 0. By default, when we don't specify the first parameter, it will be 0. And it will goes until like 4, right? در ریاضی اگر شما فکرتان باشه و یا هم بیاد داشته باشین، ما یک چیزی داشتیم به نام انتروال. انتروال فرض مثال 5 الا 0 یا 0 الا مثلا 5. درست. رنج هم همه است با یک تفاوتی که در رنج که هست که ما اشاری را حساب نمیکنیم و تمام ازی البته امکانش هست که اشاری را حساب بکنیم، ولی با تفاوت ازی که با دیفالت از انتیجر و یا هم عدد صحیح هست. مثلا اگر بگوییم که فرض مثال اگر فرض کنیم داخل از این رنج و یا هم این اینتروال چی شامل میشه، مثلا میتونیم بگیم 0 شامل میشه، 1 شامل میشه، 2 شامل میشه، 3 شامل میشه، 4 شامل میشه و 5 هم شامل میشه، چون قوس اینجا بسته است. So the same is true about the for loop. When we specify the, for example, the range, as well count until this condition is true. For example, uh, the ranges, for example, have not like reached to 5. So how we can use, for example, let's consider how we can use uh, uh, the the first, for example, parameter or the start one. Let's consider another example and see how we can define the first parameter. For example, for x in range of example 1 up to 10, and let's have the square of like the numbers from 1 up to 9. If I run it, as you can see, let me just write the value of x. It will be better for us to understand. So using the f string and then the curly brackets in order to specify that it is the variable. and use another curly brackets for the x value. Is equal. Or just let's have it like this. If I run the program, you will see that the square of 1 is equal to 1, the square of 2 is equal to 4, and the square of 3 is equal to 9, and the square of like 4 is equal to 16, and it goes until 9. Since we said that the range will stop at 10, right? At 10, it will not include 10. In order to like, for example, have uh, like we want to have the 10 as well, so we can increase 10 to 1, for example, to 11, right? We increase it only one number. If we run it, so in this time, it will include 10 as well, right? So it is how like the for loop works. And if we have enough time to discuss, um, let's have another example and explain the, uh, for example, and now let's explain the nested loop. What is the nested loop? Okay, just let me um, open a new one. Nested loop is like loop inside another loop, right? It is called nested loop. We have one for loop in here and one for loop inside another for loop. So this is how like the nested loop looks like. Use nested loop for like different purposes. The same is through like the purposes that we use, like the for loop um, is true about the nested loop. Sometimes we use, for example, the nested loop in order to like we just want to have like we just don't want to waste our time and run our program as soon as we can, right? So let's consider another example. I just want to write a comment regarding this and write it like that it is nested loop. Yep. And and what we can write, we can have another example. I just want to write a new comment in here and explain what we are gonna do. For example, we can add a init as variable and it's loop above inside another loop. And let's so now write an example of how we're gonna use the nested loop. For example, we can use for minutes, right? For minutes, we say for minutes in the range of, as you can see, that minutes is from 0 up to 60. So we can write it like this, from minutes in range of 60. And for seconds in range 60 print, for example. What should it print? It should print the minutes, so I can use the bit string. It will be easier for us to understand and write the variables, minutes. Just want to print out the minutes and the seconds. So let's have this. Let's run it and see what's the result. Okay. As you can see, it prints like from like each minute and its seconds. For example, let me go from the beginning. It should start from 0 minutes. Okay, here. It will start from 0 minute and 0 second, right? And then from 0 and 1. Uh, as you can see, it it takes a value from the minute and then perform the task or go or complete the while loop inside the uh, in this while loop, uh, and then go from here whether it there is something remaining or not. And if it's remaining, then it will like run and execute another, for example, uh, another, for example, nested, I mean, for loop inside this while loop, inside this for loop. So it will generate all like the numbers from minutes and seconds. So nothing is left. So from like it completes all the seconds, and then for the, for example, 0 minute, and then it goes to 1 minute, and then complete all the seconds for that, and then it goes to the second, for example, minute. So it is how like the nested loop works. We will have like probably 3 minutes of break, and after that we will discuss let's. So you can stay away from your computers and like electronic device for 3 minutes, and then we will come back. Thanks. I hope you can see my screen. So I just wanna only just have a discussion about two other, for example, excuse me, this one. Discuss about two other terms, which is break and continuous and continuous. Okay. Uh, we um uh, so how we can like define the break and continuous. میتونیم برش بگوییم که break like ما زمان بریک استفاده میکنیم که ما بخوایم برای خروج کامل از ادامه اجرای دستورات یک حلقه و در صورت برقرار بودن شرط تعیین شده ما از بریک استفاده میکنیم inside در داخل یک لوپ یا هم یک حلقه. اگر یک مثال رو در نظر بگیریم بریک اینطور میشه. مثلا بیایی تو به اینجا و میبینه که بریک است استارت میشه دیگه حلقه ما را ادامه نمیده وقتی که شرط معین است صدق بکنه و بریک میگیره که ادامه نمیده. و کانتینیوس چی است؟ کانتینیوس هم ما داخل معمولا لوپ ها استفاده میکنیم. درست داخل لوپ ها استفاده میکنیم و مثلا چرا هم که کانتینیوس فقط در یک مقطع کوتاه که در شرط ما یک وقفه ایجاد میکنه و بعدا ادامه برنامه را و یا هم حلقه را میره. درست فقط در اینجا یک وقفه ایجاد میکنه، یک وقتی کاندیشن ترو باشه و یا هم وقتی که شرط درست باشه در اینجا استارت میشه و بعدا با برنامه و یا هم حلقه خود برای خود ادامه میده. مثلا فرض کنید یک مثال روزمره ما. مثلا اگر ما بگوییم که اگر 2 گیلاس نوشابه خوردی دیگر بس کن، این میتونه که مثال های از بریک باشه. اگر مثلا 2 گیلاس نوشابه خوردی دیگر بس کن، یعنی دیگر نخور. و کنتینیوس چه رقم میتونیم که یک مثال روزمره براتون بدیم، مثلی که اگر ما بگوییم اگر 2 گیلاس نوشابه خوردی یک وقفه بگی و دوباره شروع کن. درست یک وقفه میگیره، یک وقفه ایجاد میشه و بعدا دوباره شروع میکنه تا اینکه حلقه را تکمیل کنه. So let's have an example for I in range of, for example, 1 to 0 up to maybe use it like this. If if for example I is bigger than 10, then else and the product not the product, but probably the square of those numbers. For example, what we can say, I is equal to I square. این پروگرام ما چی کار میکنیم؟ اول رنج مشخص میکنیم و بعدا یک کاندیشن استفاده میکنیم که اف است. ما میگیم که اگر آی ما و هم عدد ما حالا بزرگتر از 10 بود چی کار کو؟ بیا و بریک بی. بریک ما قبلا هم شما گفتم که دیگه از امی وایل لوپ ما خارج میشه و پروگرام استارت میکنه اگر امی کاندیشن درست باشه. در غیر از اون میایه و بر ما اسکویر چی میکنه؟ پرینت میکنه. شما میبینید که ما در رنج خود یا هم در لوپ خود تا 15 گفتیم بر ما برو، ولی در اینجا ما توسط بریک میتونیم حلقه را تا کنترل رو مدیریت بکنیم که اگر این کاندیشنه که آی و یا همون نمبر بزرگتر از 10 بود درست بود بیا و برای خارج شد کامپلیتلی. اما مثال از اوسته که مثلا اگر 2 گیلاس نوشابه خوردی دیگر بس کن و دیگر یعنی نخور. و یکی از و اگر بخوایم که مثلا فار لوپ در داخلش کنترل کنیم ما میتونیم توسط بریک این کنترل بکنیم. Let's have another example for the continuous. I just write the same example, right? 0 up to 15. If I is bigger than is equal to, for example, 7, then okay. Let me just copy and paste this statement. So I can change it to, for example, 11. It doesn't really matter. For example, if it's 11, then stop the program. And as you can see, the result is same. But if I use continuous instead of like break, and then what will see what will happen. As you can see, it only escaped 11, but it continues the loop until it reaches to the range, right? همین مثالی که بعداً پیشتر گفتیم که اگر 2 گیلاس نوشابه خوردی یک وقفه بگیر و دوباره شروع کن. اینجا میبینین وقفه در چی بوده؟ در 11 بوده. ما گفتیم که اگر 11 بود continuous، یعنی در اینجا یک وقفه بگیر و بعداً حلقه را ادامه بده. خب توسط بریک و continuous و هم continue ما میتونیم که لوپ اداره بکنیم. درست.